Hey guys, what's going on? It is prime time here. In the bottom right is the red Protoss. I never really know how to introduce myself into the game and still say my own name. But whatever, enough of that. And before I get into anything, the top left we have our blue Protoss player, Courage, and he's going to be our opponent in this PvP. Now, I was originally planning on doing 5 PvPs as I speed it up right now. But the point of that was I was going to show you guys 2 different builds, and I actually put the 4th PvP on the channel with the different builds, but you know, I'm still working on the second build I want to show you, so I'll have to post that at a later time. And because I didn't really want to leave you guys hanging with just putting annotations in that last video to sort of correct myself on a couple things, I just want to make one more PvP, and as you can see, I'm just going to speed through this intro stuff. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and speed through a little bit more. Now, this game does go to the late game, so that's partly why I wanted to use this replay. Also, one more thing before I sort of talk about too much of just random stuff. Typically, in PvP, I will send the worker right after the first pylon to scout. And when you have a map like this with 4 different spawn points, and you have one watchtower in the middle, if a player is going to proxy gate you, like a 2-gate proxy rush, what he's going to do is typically they'll build the gateways right here in the middle, and if you just shift to your worker to scout base to base, they won't actually go through the watchtower. So what you actually want to do is if you send an early worker, scout one base, then come back to the watchtower, and then go on scouting and do your thing, because if they have proxied, you'll see it. If you send a standard timing scout, like after you build your gateway, then go immediately to the tower to see what's going on, and then go to whatever base you want to scout. Now, I know I skipped some of the intro stuff, but if you were looking at the production tab, you will see that, actually one thing I didn't quite show was, because I just wanted to speed this up, when I scouted this base, I will show you my vision, I saw 2 gateways and 2 gas. This was early. These 2 gates were early because I think this gate went down before the cyber was completed. So seeing 2 gas and 2 gateways basically means your opponent will not expand when you see that sort of tech. Basically, if you see your opponent going for 2 gas, he's not going to do an early expo. And when you do see the 2 early gateways, you can almost guarantee he's going to try to do some early pressure. And you can see right now, he's sort of just holding the stalkers for map control since you can't get up the ramp. Ideally, they will try to get up your ramp, so just be ready on that force field. And if you look at the production tab again, you can see Blink on the way. And because I sort of knew he was going to bring some pressure, now, I don't typically get an Immortal, but because I knew pressure was coming, I went ahead and I dumped a Chrono on the Warp Gate, just because you can sort of afford to do that anyway. And then I also went ahead and Chronoed out a Immortal. And he is going to be going for Blink Stalkers, so am I. Now, right now, he's not happy with his classic Ermerger. And I don't know what that is. But he really wants to get up this ramp to do some damage, because if you look in his base, he has 4 Warp Gates with Blink. Now, if you see your opponent doing this, or if you sort of had the idea that your opponent is doing this, this is a very heavy 1-base play, and it typically means their expo will come guaranteed after the 7-minute mark, if they're going to use these Warp Gates at all. Because they can afford to be on 3 Warp Gates and expand by the 7-minute mark, sort of with just as many units as if they went for the 4-gate, if that makes any sense. So I don't know he has Blink, so I decided to go poke down with the Immortal, because I sort of just wanted to see if I can just see what's going on there. And now I know he has Blink, so that makes me even more concerned. And what I didn't show you was I was trying to get the Observer and Warp Prism out of the Robo, because I want to stay on this build. But because I saw he has Blink Stalkers, and I sort of was assuming he has an Observer here, even though he doesn't, I went ahead and canceled my Observer Warp Prism, and I went ahead and got another Immortal. If you're ever feeling a little uneasy, just go ahead and delay this push a little bit and get your Immortal out. Now we can see his expansion timing went down at about the 8-minute mark, and he's going to follow this up with a Robo facility. No surprise there. And now it's time to break out. You do want to break this contain. If you know you're going against Blink Stalkers and you have 2 Immortals this early on the game, go ahead and just break it, because there's really not much your opponent can do, especially when you have Blink as well. And so let's go ahead and look at the units lost. Nothing significant as of yet. If we look at the army tab though, I am ahead by 10. And when your opponent goes for an early expo in this matchup, you're going to have an army lead. It's just sort of how it works. Down goes my expo at 9:30. This is very late, but we will see why it's sort of okay. Now I go ahead and chrono another immortal out because I know I'm going against Blink Stalkers. And did I make the Warp Prism? I don't know if I made the Warp Prism yet. I'm gonna still stay on that build with the Warp Prism. But I feel like I have an advantage right now because I know he's on Blink Stalkers and I know I can have 3 Immortals out. So I'm going to see what sort of damage I can do up the front. But you also, I mean, Blink Stalkers are very fast and mobile, but you can still do damage with a Warp Prism. So, you know, go ahead and build it anyway. And you can see he's just trying to poke. And all I'm doing right now is instead of having my units way back here, I'm denying any vision from him. So if we look at his point of view, he doesn't know I have an expo, and he actually has no idea what I'm doing. Well, I mean, he can sort of get a sense because of the units I have, but he has no idea what's going on the map right now. So I can throw down proxy pylons, I can contain him on his base, and more importantly, what you can also do is by having your units here, you know where his units are. Now, be careful with this observer. You don't want to just send it right up there because it might get picked off if he has his own observer, and it doesn't look like it's on the way yet because he's concerned about keeping his base locked down and secure. I am going for the Robo Bay. Don't forget the builds. You want to continue on with the tech path. And don't worry too much about transferring workers. What I like to do is just rally both rally points here and here, and that way you can just do that sort of thing. Now I'm just going to keep on keeping him contained. He has an earlier expo. If you look at the spending tab, I'm sure it's going to show that he has spent more than me, which means he should have a stronger army at this point in the game. And the units lost is pretty much even at this point in the game. So right now, I'm going to just try to distract his front army while my Warp Prism is making its way around the backside. But I did kill 2 Zealots, so that was pretty good. And he's definitely concerned right now. And if we look at the Warp Prism, it's the classic 3 Zealot Sentry push. And you know what, I'm going to pause right now and let's just see his vision. He's distracted right now, and I have not looked at this replay, so I have no idea if he's going to be staring down my Warp Prism or not. He's distracted at the front right now, so let's see his point of view. He has Blink Stalkers, so he wants to, you know, keep them active and whatnot. And he's going to just try to pick off units where he can. And he does kill a Stalker, but it took him like so long to realize this Warp Prism was going on his base. And this is exactly the sort of pressure you can put on when you have him distracted. Now, this push right here, I figured he's out of position because he can't guard this ramp as easily, so I'm going to go ahead and push up. And although I forgot to bring the units lost tab up, this fight actually pretty much becomes an even battle. But a lot of times in these situations, you really got to be careful with pushing your advantage. You do your damage back here, which is great, and if I can kill that Immortal, that would be amazing, but I won't be able to. If you look at the workers lost, though, I've killed 21 workers, which is going to give me the lead despite the earlier expo. If you look at the units tab, it is going to be way in my favor. Because all that while, another advantage of having that map control is I was just able to chrono out workers like no other. And you almost need to do that when your expo is quite a bit late, in which my case was a minute and a half behind. And it's important to chrono out workers, and to really get away with doing that, you either need map control or you need really good defensive units here to keep yourself secure. And now we see no Immortals, no Sentries for myself because we do have a Warp Prism moving around the backside. And one of the Sentries that I do have is in there. Now in this situation, I'm just going to go ahead and pause this for a second. The upgrades are even. If you look at the army value, it's about even as well. I would give him the unit advantage because of the Sentries. The problem though is 4 Zealots here. And I do have my own units there. So what we're going to see is sort of the defender's advantage really come into play here. And what I mean by that is because I'm back here defending, first of all, I have the site advantage. He does have an observer, but I have the choke advantage. I have Blink Stalker Micro that I can always fall back on. But more importantly, because you're on these 2 robos, and because these are rallied units, not warp-in units, you have to, the closer you are to where those units are being made, the more, you know, advantageous that position becomes for you, because obviously the shorter reinforcement time. And because the outstate is welcome a little bit too much, I'm going to go ahead and push that one back with the help of the second immortal. And honestly, if you go ahead and watch that fight again, and by the way, this warp prism really needs to go in there during that fight. If that goes in his base during the fight and these zealots aren't here, I guarantee that's another like 10 workers killed. But if you watch that battle again right here, the reason I pull back here and just try to delay is because I'm waiting for this immortal to come out, or the one that did come out before. I'm waiting for that to pop out, and sorry about that. That way I can have a unit advantage. And if we look at units lost, I'm ahead by 1,000. And if we look at spending, I am also ahead by about 1,000, which, do the math, I'm about 2,000 resources ahead of my opponent right now. If you look at it in those simple of terms. And now in this position, you know you have the lead. You have the tech you want. You've been getting some upgrades. You sort of have two moves here. You can either just go for like an all-in-ish sort of really heavy aggressive push when you get like a couple Colossus out, and then you can also add on a couple warp gates, because right now 3 warp gates, 2 robos. You can literally afford to produce off this forever. It's like ridiculous. But instead of going ahead and just pushing really aggressively with a couple Colossus, I know I'm pretty far ahead, and when you are pretty far ahead in Protoss vs. Protoss, you can go ahead and expand. Now, a lot of people will joke around and say the first person to expo loses, and in this case it'll actually be true because my opponent did expo first. Not to spoil anything, but whatever. So we're going to head speed this along. I just sort of wanted to show you one of the scenarios where you're forced into a position where you get a late expo, and your opponent has a pretty good build to counter what you have. I mean, when they have 4-gate Blink Stalker versus your 3-gate Blink Stalker, and you're trying to do a Warp Prism drop, which means he's going to have like the best units to deny that possible, aside from like a Phoenix, which is pretty rare in PvP. So given all of that, I just wanted to show you sort of how to overcome that sort of build order matchup you can sometimes find yourself in. Now, we can see our opponent's going to go ahead and try to push out with these 4 Colossus, and I want to show you something real quick. He's been producing... Oh yeah, he does have 2 robos. So he got his tech up really, really early, and he also has 2 robos. I got my tech up pretty late, and I have 2 robos as well, but because of the economic damage I was able to do, I could produce just as many Colossus as him. Now, he did have a lot of charge lots, which are pretty useless in this matchup at this point in the game, because Colossus will just shred through them. So I don't really recommend getting those. Now, a rare sight in Master League, you get a GG from your opponent. But really, I feel like that was a pretty straightforward game. I do want to mention, when you have a good amount of Stalkers, when you have a good amount of Blink Stalkers, and you're fighting versus Colossus in those low numbers, and actually, this game is basically over, so I just want to rewind just for a second, and then I will go ahead and end this, and we will also move on to the next matchup. But when you're on these low amount of units, if you look at the army supply, I do have a big advantage, but still, I mean, this is not that many units. So if you just want to watch what I do with my Stalkers, now you have 2 options here. You can either blink forward and try to kill a Colossus or 2, which is obviously exactly what I try to do, and then the rest of my Stalkers get shredded. Or, when they were back here, at the very initial fight, what you can also do is sort of separate them a little bit with Blink Micro, and also hold back until your Colossus can sort of swing up with them. And then eventually you can try to hope to get some Immortals forward to kill his Colossus, if possible. Anyway, that was this PvP, and I will have the other PvP build order that I want to show you guys eventually. Sorry for the delay. And we will be moving on to another matchup now, probably PvT. And we will see my build order that I want to show you in that matchup when the time comes. So thanks for watching, everybody. Good luck on the ladder. And for now, it's Prime Time signing out. And I hope you guys enjoy this game.